You're listening to Bill Martinez Live.
We're back with you, America, 14 minutes before the top of the hour. Bill Martinez here. And we've got a fascinating guest. Maybe many of you already know about him. So many of his videos have gone viral. What he has to share with us is kind of a wake-up call, if you hadn't heard this before. And it's probably something that resonates with your own spirit right now, because you know something is amiss when we in this country understand, at least 6 out of 10 of us, say that this country is on the wrong track. So what does that mean, and how is this exactly being played out? And I like what our next guest had to say about this. Stefan Verstappen, he is from Canada, and what you might refer to as a classical Renaissance man, written dozens of articles for various magazines and newspapers, author of 8 books, including The Way of the Warrior, 36 Strategies of Ancient China, and The Art of Urban Survival. Stefan, welcome to Bill Martinez Live. How are you, sir?
I'm doing fine, Bill. Thanks very much for having me on the show.
Well, good to have you here to talk about, how we are under attack. Explain to our audience what you're seeing in terms of the attack we're under, because in a lot of ways, I feel like that old analogy, we're like that frog in boiling water that started out to be very comfortable, but the bubbles are starting to increase and rise, and we're getting cooked.
Yeah, we are getting cooked, Bill, and we're under attack. It's just a multi-pronged attack. My first book is the 36 Strategies of China, and I studied a lot of strategy and tactics in preparing to write that book. And what we see is a strategy called strategies within strategy. We are under a multi-pronged attack aimed at destroying our minds, our bodies, and our souls, our spirits, if you believe in that. And it's been going on for, a long time now. It's been boiling, and we're just about at the end now. We're just about cooked, and we've got to fight back, Bill. We've got to fight back.
How much time do we have here? Are we and the reason I'm asking that, Stefan, I'm wondering, because this has been brought up on several occasions, particularly here in America, and that is that we have been so apathetic, and this has been so progressive, and the way it's encircled us, some have said that America is at a tipping point and maybe at a point of no return.
Well, I try to stay positive, but, on the other hand, you can't ignore the facts in front of you. We are really over the tipping point now. Look at what has happened to our society. I mean, it's completely upside down and backwards. Our values have been reversed. We are a nation of slaves. In one of my videos, Why We Are Poor, I explained that, the money the government is taking from us is obscene. I mean, back in the Middle Ages, the peasants of England revolted when they were taxed at more than 10%. We're paying, 60, 70, 80%, and there's no revolt. I mean, it's gone past the tipping point. We are almost completely enslaved.
Yeah, we've been conditioned by this, haven't we?
Yes, and it's part of the attack. We've been conditioned through the education system, through the media, through art, newspapers, magazines, movies. It's all been a very steady and very effective strategy to make us stupid and complacent and apathetic and divisive. I mean, we're arguing over each other. There are kids killing each other over Air Jordan running shoes,
Yeah.
So, this is what they have done to us, and, it's been successful. We are divisive, we're apathetic, and we're afraid. And we need to get our strength back. We need to become strong and resist this, or otherwise your children and your grandchildren are going to grow up in a state of tyranny that's undreamt of, even in your worst sci-fi dystopian nightmare.
Exactly. Well, one of the things that you point out that I really hope that our audience caught here, and that is the spiritual ramifications. When you look back over time and you see what these despots have done when they've taken over countries, one of the first things they try to do is to really take control of any kind of religion, any kind of moral control, because that is the virtual heartbeat of any kind of culture. And what has happened to this country is that one by one it has turned its back on God. And you talk about the chaotic ramifications that exist in our country today. You're exactly right. the very root of this is it's been turned on its head. That which is evil is somehow good, and that which is good has somehow become evil. I mean, we're really messed up.
Yes, and I'll be honest with you. I'm a very skeptical guy, and I fancy myself to be rational and scientific. But no matter how much I look at this, it really comes down to a spiritual battle. It is,
yes, exactly.
Really a battle between good and evil. And the good people have been emasculated. We've been castrated. We've been, pushed down and made frightened and fearful. We need to reinstill the spirit of, and that spirit that could, enforce your own morality again on your own small environment. And again, this is why I call it the way of the warrior. It's an ancient archetype. We've had that throughout history. And it's people that, to protect yourself, to fight against this great evil, you have to be strong. You can't just be Mr. Average, Joe Six-Pack, watch the Super Bowl and have a hamburger. That's not going to be enough to fight against what we're up against. We are up against the entire, armies of Mordor here, So we need to empower ourselves and empower our spirits, because it really is, ultimately, it's a battle between good and evil.
Yeah, and what you talk about in terms of the forces, some of those forces are very obvious, the ones that are coming in to attack us. The other forces that work against us are those who are apathetic, those that have surrendered, those that have accepted slavery without even realizing that they've been enslaved. This is how pernicious this is, and how deceptive it is people have just I've been saying, Stefan, that people just shrug anymore. There's no shame, there's no blushing, they just shrug.
Yeah. No, it's frightening, and I see it too, especially with the new technology, with the smartphones and all these people walking around. Like, I'm a great proponent of going out into nature, and I'm always outdoors, and I see people walking around, and they've got this smartphone, they don't even look up. They're zombies, they're gone, it's done. These people are never going to mount a defense against the attacks that they're under. They've already been subverted by this technology and social media and the narcissism and selfishness. It's so widespread, and once you succumb to that, it's like a cult. And 30, 40 years ago, they had a book called Snapped, and it talked about all these cults and how people would try and kidnap their sons and daughters out of the cult, and they would bring them to a remote location in a cabin in the mountains, and they would have 3 or 4 people try to deprogram them. And you know what? 8 out of 10 times they were unsuccessful. We can't unprogram these people. Once they've gone that far down this pathway, they never come back. So it's up to us, the rest of us that still have a little bit of self-awareness, that have some knowledge of what is going on in this world. We have to redouble our efforts. We have to make sure our kids don't succumb to this disease. We have to try and drag our neighbors and our friends and our family out of the pit of ignorance and get them on our side to mount some kind of a psychological and a moral defense, because most of the people, they're gone. They're done.
Yeah, exactly. Well, it's like I've said before, Stefan, it's almost like, it's like the law of gravity. And what I see happening here is that people need to experience the violation of the law of gravity. They may have to hit the ground to finally realize how bad it really is. And it's going to be painful. There's no doubt about it. And I would say that pain is in the forecast, but with pain comes occasionally real. And maybe we'll be shaken up into some situational awareness, but we're going to have to go through the school of hard knocks in the process.
Yeah, it's an unpleasant fact, but that is the truth, that people won't get motivated so long as they still have their iPhones and their McDonald's and things like that.
Well, they're all being dumbed down. It's almost like the modern era snake charmer. We're being snake charmed by our iPhones and all this connectivity that I was watching the other day, and you may have seen this video where I think it was in Japan. The gal was so focused on her iPhone that she walked into a manhole and just boom, just into a manhole. Boom, she's gone underneath. And thank God she wasn't hurt too badly, but still hurt. But that's, to your point, we're so focused on these things that we're losing our sense of situational awareness. We're so inward focused that we're not even aware of what's happening around us.
Yeah, it's true. And I've seen it myself dozens of times. So that's the problem. We have to avoid this. And look, there's a certain percentage of the population that are natural-born leaders. It's about 20%. We are the men and the women that are born. There's something different about us. We've always never 100% fit in ever since we were children. And those of your listeners that are listening to your show, they know what I'm talking about.
Exactly.
You've never quite fit in. There's always been something a little bit different about you, and often, we were bullied as children or meant to feel that there's something wrong with us growing up. The education system and so on. It tells us there's something wrong with being the way we are. But the reason the way we are is because we are natural-born leaders, and we don't blindly follow things just because it comes from an authority figure. But 20% is enough to make a change as a society. I think the American Revolution was fought with less than 10% of the people participating.
Stefan, sadly, we're out of time. I'm going to let you wrap this up, but I need to have you back because you and I could be talking for a long time about this important topic. Where can people, in the meantime, go for more information until you and I get together again?
Well, they can go to my website, ChinaStrategies.com. It's a bad URL, but it was named after my first book, China Strategies. But everything is on there. All my videos and books, you can go there. That's the easiest way.
Excellent. Stefan Verstappen, I'm Bill Martinez Live. Thank you, Stefan. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Bill, for having me on. Talk soon.